Rosalia is definitely on that upward trajectory still. And they're talking about fame in such a refreshing way, understanding with the self-acknowledgement that, hey, this might not last forever. And I don't hear that much from artists. So it was beautiful to hear the way that they incorporated that aspect into the song. And, you know, I found myself doing like a little 4-step bachata as I was listening to it. And I was like, I was like, this isn't bad. And like the first time I heard it, I was like, this dude sounds just like The Weeknd, huh? And then I looked at my phone like, oh, this is The Weeknd. Wow, okay, I see you, bro.
Singing in Spanish and everything. Yeah, it was dope.
Yeah, man.
Let me put you on game.
We have got a very interesting review for you guys. It's a little bit outside of our normal, stilo, but that's what we do at the Put You On Game podcast. We stretch ourselves. So we've got a new and up and coming artist that many people haven't heard of within the United States. Her name is RosalÍa. This is her third album, Motomami. This is following up El Mal Querer, her last album, and Los Angeles, which is her debut album. She's got some heavy hitters on here in terms of production, in terms of features. She's gone all out. It's far left from what we expect from her. It's experimental, but I've got to say, I enjoy it. She's really stepped into her own as a singer, as a songwriter, and as a producer even on this album. And I really enjoyed it. It was a big stretch for me sonically. The first time I listened to it, I didn't really know what I was hearing on a lot of the songs, but I do appreciate her ability to stretch into these different genres that are various genres that have been popular over the course of the history of Latin music and really make them her own, kind of in the way that the FKA Twigs album was her stepping into all these different genres, but still maintaining her own sound within them. So I think that's an incredible talent. But overall, I really like the album. I think it's really bold. I think she takes a lot of risks, and it was a pleasant listen, especially once I was able to grasp the subject matter and what she was going for sonically. But what about you? What did you think?
Yeah, this project was like a stretch for me. You know, the language barrier, like, and I took like 4 years of Spanish between, you know, middle school and high school, and
we all did.
Yeah, and it barely prepared me for this. You know, it was tough, but I think that sonically she does some really, really fascinating and interesting things with this project. And then you dig into the lyrics and you realize how much depth of character she has. And I think she's also a lot of fun, man. Like, she has a great singing voice, amazing choreography if you watch any of her videos as a performer, and she doesn't take herself too seriously. It's like very endearing to see how she can make fun of herself and have like kind of corny lines here and there, which gives her this infectious charisma. But her music also has like several levels of her personality, from braggadocious and bombastic to somber and reflective and almost like ethereal at certain moments. And it showed me that it doesn't matter what country someone comes from, the human experience, as long as you're open and vulnerable to sharing that, you can express it, and you can share that with the world. And again, it doesn't matter what language you're singing in. So this could be English, Spanish, Yoruba, or anything, you know what I mean? Patois.
Yeah, for real. It's different. It's different for sure, but it allows you to open yourself up to a different side of things and not always kind of be stuck in the kind of music that we're normally into. But to get into the track list, she opens up with SAOKO. I love the ominous instrumental and the take on Pereo. The instrumental itself progresses really well. Then you move into Candy, which is a really cool and experimental take on reggaeton. I never heard anything like it, to be honest. It's a really soft take on a genre that's normally like a lot more hard hitting, because she has these really heavenly keys throughout. And in terms of the subject matter, it's a really touching song about feeling the distance between you and someone that you used to be close to. I think it's probably relationship based in that aspect. And then we move into the third track, La Fama, with our guy The Weeknd. The song that I have not been able to stop listening to this entire weekend. It was just another really cool experimental take on bachata. I love the plucky rhythm on the chorus, and of course, really great contributions from Abel. He's really been killing all of his features. You know, go back to listen to our Dawn FM review as well. Like he's on a good creative kick right now. I'm really enjoying it. He
Yeah.
slides in effortlessly on the track. They're both, you know, waxing poetic about fame and how treacherous it can be for them to navigate in their world, and they kind of compare it to a woman that they could never commit to at the same time. So it's a really spicy song. Then we got Bulería, which is a nice nod to flamenco music, which is more close to what we heard on her previous albums, particularly Los Angeles, where the instrumentalists look like really sparse and stripped back. But that, I think, leaves a lot of room for her vocals, which I think are some of the best in popular music. Some of the runs that she has are pretty amazing. She has a really great control over her voice, where she sings about being defiant in regards to her talent in the face of doubt from others. It was a really intriguing start to the album, and it got me really excited for what I was going to hear on the rest of it. What do you think about the first stretch here?
Yeah, I think she had a really strong opening stretch here. And it was one of those stretches that kind of force you to expand your sonic capabilities, especially if you're not used to the sound. And I was like, oh, she's going for it immediately. I love how she opened with SAOKO in terms of like the hi-hats that were just kind of teasing you in, and then you get into that, you know, 4 or 5 note riff with the electric guitar that sounds like a motorcycle revving up, and then you watch the video and it clicks all the more. You know, and then, you know, her expressions about transformations and being like a butterfly, and the imagery that invokes, I thought was really really interesting. And then, you know, moving on to Candy and detailing how she's moved on from her lover, but her lover has not, and that how they won't really forget her. That was really dope. And I like that concept, and it's become a mega hit. I'm listening to it in H&M while I'm waiting online. I'm like, wait, we're in the US right now, and they like nobody in this store, well, besides the Spanish folk, understand what's going on here. But, you know, here to put you on game, we check it out first. So now we understand, we get it.
Yeah.
And then moving into La Fama, like you said, Abel slid very easily into this track. They're both megastars, and it was really cool to hear them talk about fame in this way, because I think Abel is kind of at that level now where his place in music is solidified. And I think Rosalia is definitely on that upward trajectory still. And they're talking about fame in such a refreshing way, understanding with the self-acknowledgement that, hey, this might not last forever. And I don't hear that much from artists. So it was beautiful to hear the way that they incorporated that aspect into the song. And, you know, I found myself doing like a 4-step bachata as I was listening to it. And I was like, this isn't bad. And like the first time I heard it, I was like, this dude sounds just like The Weeknd, huh? And then I looked at my phone, like, oh, this is The Weeknd. Wow, okay, I see you, bro.
Singing in Spanish, you know, and everything. Yeah, it was dope.
Yeah, man. And then Bulerias, I really enjoyed the intensifying percussion on this track that builds along with her defiant expressions of her stating who she is as a flamenco singer, despite what she wears. And just some of the language that she was using here, I thought was really beautiful and strong-willed, that I appreciated. Then moving on to some of the middle stretch of this project, this is where things get like a little wacky. Chicken Teriyaki, my goodness. I thought this song was hilarious. The first time I heard it, I'm like, what is this woman talking about? Like, pati, naki, chicken teriyaki. I was like, what? Are we in the mall right now? Like, you know, am I about to go up to the food court looking for samples?
Food court.
Basically. And I thought in Spanish it sounded funny, but then when I saw the English translation, I'm like, okay, no, this is hilarious. Maybe there is some Spanish context that I'm missing from my understanding, but she's basically saying there's nothing here for you, chicken teriyaki. Okay. But the beat was dope, and it had a sense of urgency and chaos to me. But the video was a lot of fun, and I think that if you just kind of go with it and you don't take it too seriously, you can enjoy it as well. Hentai, you know, she kind of switches the gears a little bit, and I think it's like a lovely sensual ballad. And despite the imagery that is provoked when you hear hentai, and what that title gives off, but I thought the gentlest piano melody really allowed her vocals to shine and stand out. And that's when I was like, okay, no, she's a legit singer. She's a legit vocalist. And I like how the beat transforms on the latter half, creating like an orgasmic type of feeling, especially with the rapid style percussion on the back end of the song. Biscoquito, it definitely reminded me of like random commercials that I would hear on Telemundo, because it was like fast paced with striking lines like no base mi caraya, and then tener hits, which, sorry, let me say that again.
No, I was struggling too.
No base mi carrera en tener hits. Tengo hits porque yo sente la veces, which translates to, I didn't base my career on having hits. I got hits because I laid the base. I was like, okay, now, now you speak. Yeah, you're talking that talk, you're speaking right into my heart. Those are definitely rap bars if you've ever heard it. And then this other line, tu eres el que pimpia o te pimpian a ti, yo elegí mi lado desde el día en que nací, which means, are you the pimp or are you the one being pimp? I chose my side from the day I was born. Just defiant, you know what I mean? Yeah. Like talking that talk, and then finally into G3 and 15, which I like the organs on the song and the way the chorus explodes onto the scene and the intensity of the organs as it kicks up, as she looks to something in the sky and something magnificent. And this speaks to that ethereal, heavenly like experience that she tries to provide and mix in on this project, which shows you a different side of her, a more religious side or a more spiritual side. And I like the inclusion of the voicemail message that her mother said at the end, just kind of reminding RosalÍa of her connection to God and her core values that she was raised on. Definitely reminiscent of like what's his face, off of Blonde, Frank Ocean, and some of the voicemail messages that his mom left to him and him reflecting on that in the middle of the project. So yeah, this is an interesting stretch for me and I had fun, despite some of the twists and turns that she took me on.
Yeah, I like chicken teriyaki. It's normally not the kind of song I like. I hate ridiculousness, but I don't know if the beat was just so infectious that it worked for me. Hentai, of course, is a very interesting title track, but I think the song itself is very sensual. So she describes something that is essentially pornographic in a really beautiful way, finding the beauty in something like that. So that's a really interesting twist. And like you said, her vocals are really lovely here, and the subtle piano and the industrial production that she kind of mixes in on the last half, it works really well together. Bizcochito, I thought that was a nice little interlude. It was really fun. G3 and 15, I love her stripping back the instrumental here. The organ is really heavenly. It really sells the subject matter of her talking to a child in her life, who I think I heard was her nephew, and saying that she's sorry for not being able to be around as much. But the reason that, like she's talking about how like she missed certain segments of his life, and she's wondering like, what are you into? Like, what do you like now? Like last time I saw you, you were this age, but now you're this age. So have you changed? But she can't be a part of his life because like the world that she currently lives in is not suitable for a child, and it would be dangerous for them. So it's kind of like a between a rock and a hard place kind of situation. I really like Motomami, the title track. Production from Pharrell here, and I think you can hear it once you realize it's him, how obvious like the Pharrell / Neptune's influence is here. Diablo was a really, really interesting song about the disconnect between her public persona and who she actually is. She says on the song, La que salía por TV no es la yo conocí, where she says, where that translates to, she doesn't recognize where she's, when she sees herself on TV, she doesn't recognize herself. Like her public persona is not at all what she's actually like in real life, and there's a disconnect between them. And of course, we got James Blake popping up randomly on the interlude with a really nice, I guess, "Stop Trying to Be God" style vocal break.
Yeah,
I always appreciate. Delirios de Grandeza. I really love the instrumental here. The horns paired with the subtle piano and guitar are really beautiful and nostalgic. And it's a random Soulja Boy outro that really fits somehow.
It does,
also, which is just really odd. And then you got Cute, which is kind of like where I made the FKA Twigs comparison, because that that really far out industrial production that's really glitchy and off. but also kind of pairing it with a ballad in the middle is something that I think that FKA Twigs would do. So, you know, just hearing that kind of made me draw that parallel. They're different artists, of course, but just I see the little similarities there. And yeah, just a really cool stretch of the album that I really enjoyed.
Yeah, definitely. You know, I would say that Motomami actually reminded me of instrumentals from songs off of What's Your Pleasure album by Jessie Ware, like Ooh La La
Mm.
or Step Into My Life. That bass that she uses was really infectious and just really brought me back. I'm like, yes, you know, give me more of this. And then Diablo, a nice sounding track, but it didn't connect with me as much as I wanted it to.
Mhm.
But I definitely liked James Blake singing towards the middle. It added a nice touch. Delio de Grandeza, I love the triumphant presence with the horns and the Cuban style that it was born from. And then, you know, figuring out that it's actually a cover from an artist called Justo Bentocourt. And he was very, he was a Cuban style singer. And I love the Soldier Boy incorporation. It was awesome. It gave the track a nice twist that was definitely fly. Moving on into Cute, I thought that the synth bass was really nice, especially when the beat dropped. And it's like a runway song. You know, I could definitely see myself striking a pose and just walking down a ASU fashion show for my people from Stony Brook, if they remember, to this track. It was definitely fun and infectious. And it had the same vocal style as the previous song. So I thought it was a nice way for that type of singing to be extended in a way that wasn't very direct. And I don't see artists do that too often. So it was pretty cool. But then getting into the last stretch of the project, Como Unji, another track that I thought was laced with excellent vocals, a really heartfelt message about love, you know, with lines like Solo el amor, con amor se paga, nada te debo y tú no me debes nada, which means only love is repaid with love. I owe you nothing and you owe me nothing. I enjoy tracks like this because I think the lyrics mean one thing in English, but it's so much more elegant and poetic in a different language. And I thought that the song was actually James Blake-esque in its usage of the piano and then the somber nature. And then you see that James actually plays piano on the song.
Oh
He has
wow.
vocal credits on the song, and he has writing credits on the song. And I'm like, okay, this makes
How does
so
he
much
have
more
writing
sense.
credits if he doesn't speak Spanish? Does he speak Spanish?
Your man's is out here doing his thing, man. You
I
know,
gotta go
James
back and
Blake
listen
just
to
be
it.
popping up. Yeah. And so like I was like, man, this is giving me some James Blake vibes. And then I couldn't believe it. I was like, holy shit, like he's halfway into the song. And then I thought the ABCDEFG interlude was pretty cool. A brief interlude about everything that RosalÍa is from A to Z. And I love it when rappers do, you know, gimmicky stuff like this. It's always endearing to me, and I have fun with it. And then finally, the last two tracks, La Combi Versace featuring Tokishka. Yeah. An interesting track that kind of detailed a night out on the town with a friend and them looking fly in designer clothes and their high-tech gadgets and splurging. Just a good time between the synth horns and the slower pace reggaeton beat. I thought it was a nice sounding track overall. And then the live performance aspect of Sakura really solidified the project as a whole to me. You know, it's not the first time an artist has done like a live track at the end of their project, but I thought it was really fitting because you can hear how powerful her actual vocals are when, you know, the beat is just kind of far in the background and all you can hear is the crowd as well as her voice and how heavenly her voice sounds and how it penetrates through the audience. And she's still able to maintain her notes. It was a really cool aesthetic. And she mentions the sakura flower, which are cherry blossoms, not having a scent, and was speaking from the perspective of those things being like fake and plastic. And her depth of understanding that fame doesn't last forever speaks to her ability to kind of engage and live in the moment. And it really just hit home like, man, this girl is special, you know, language barrier or not. She gets it, and her artists like this are always really endearing to me, and I love to see what they can put on wax. So
For sure, for sure. I really like Como Unaji. Really beautiful instrumental. There's a lot of those on this album, but this one is really beautiful as well. It's a really beautiful song about heartbreak, and She has this line on here, tantas baladas se quedarán sin dedicar. And she says the ballads she writes will go undedicated, because of that heartbreak. So that really like hit
Mm,
home for me. La Combi Versace, I love the pace of this instrumental. Another really cool take, like you said, on reggaeton. And Sakura was one of my favorite tracks, especially like once you look into the meaning. Her falsetto vocally is great. It has a really operatic feel to it.
mm,
Um, the the meaning of the song, though, is where it really sells me. You touched on it a little bit, but the allusion to the sakura flower and how it blooms only for a short time, but it's really beautiful before it eventually, dies off. And she, her connection between that and her fame, and wondering if this is her blooming and how long that will last, you
mm.
know. And then her also comparing it to a flame in the next line, and saying, las llamas son bonitas porque no tienen orden, y el fuego es bonito porque todo lo rompes, which means flames are beautiful because they're not afraid to burn, and fire is beautiful because it breaks everything. So comparing that to her career and her personality, and her worry, I guess, about shining bright and being bombastic, and putting herself at the forefront, but wondering if that will eventually cause her to crash and burn. So it's just a really beautiful and triumphant end to an album, because a lot of times albums kind of end with a bit of a squeak,
Yeah.
or they end with a song that you already have been listening to the project for a while. So at the end of it, you're kind of just like, oh, the last track is a lot of times a throwaway. But I thought this was a really beautiful and really strong end to an album that I think really shows she put a lot of thought into it, but she put a lot of thought into this final song. So yeah, I came away really, really impressed. I liked her previous albums a lot, but this is one of my favorites for sure. I really enjoyed it. But if you had to pick 3 favorite tracks, which ones would you pick?
Um, for 3 favorite tracks for me, La Fama, come on. You already know La Fama. Um, Delirio de Grandeza was really dope too. And I'm kind of stuck between Biscoquito and SAOKO, but I think that let me go with SAOKO.
Okay. Give me Sakura. Yeah, I gotta go with La Fama too. Don't want to be a Weekend standboy, but I gotta go with La Fama, and I'll go with G3 and 15. I really like that
Nice.
one as well. If you had to recommend this album to our listeners on a scale of hard pass slash stay away or must listen, what would you say?
Ooh, now I would give this project a highly recommended, but it's for those who don't mind digging a little bit and trying to understand a different language, obviously, because the musicality, the instrumentals, the vocal harmonies, and the overall aesthetic, they can stand on its own. If you listen to the project a couple of times without understanding what she's saying, you're like, you get in, once you kind of like free your mind to kind of get into it, it's like, okay, I see what she's doing here. This is a lot of fun. But then once you dig into the lyrics, I think it takes it to the next level for me. And I always respect artists who are able to be vulnerable, who are able to be honest with their audience instead of being fake. And they're able to just key you into things that they're going through, because that's what speaks to me as a human to human empathy. You telling me and your story being authentic and honest always speaks volumes, no matter what your story is. It could be basic, like you being afraid of losing your fame, or it could be, something more tragic, like, drug addiction or friends or families dying. So it doesn't have to be some like heartbreaking story before I respect you and I enjoy what you have to say from your perspective. So I like what you did here, and I would definitely say highly recommend it.
Um, I'm with you, but I'll have to go a step above, and I'll have to say it's a must listen, with the context that you have to be open to foreign language albums. It's not a must listen for someone who is checking for our Gunna reviews or checking for our Young Thug or Benny the Butcher only or rap. But like, if you're open to different kinds of music, if you're open to music that takes a little bit more digging because it's not in your native language, or you're open to music that you haven't, I'm not familiar with a lot of bachata or a lot of flamenco music, or some reggaeton, because some of that has kind of pushed through into the pop sphere. But outside of those genres, like I'm not really familiar with that. So I had to kind of step outside of myself and take that step to listen to it. But if someone shares that mindset, being, you know, more willing to step outside of their comfort zone, I would say that, yeah, it's a must listen. I think she takes a lot of really interesting risks, and she does a lot with her vocals. I think she's a really interesting artist, and I enjoy when artists take risks. So I have to say that it's a highly recommend, or above highly
Nice.
recommend. It's a must listen. I highly recommend that you must listen to this album. So that'll do it for our RosalÍa review. I think we both really enjoyed it. Excited to see what she does next. So great job. Really, really enjoyed it.
Yeah,
Let's
definitely.